All right, man. After show. So I've two things I want to talk about there. It's just to wrap those up. I want to talk about how a billionaire like Musk can throw in 1% to buy, like you or I are sitting in a coffee shop and purchase.
I think I'll buy Twitter.
Well, purchase a few stocks of a certain, it's nothing to him. And the stock shoots up by 30%. He can't fail.
Think about that.
This is what I thought about when I was on a treadmill this morning, as I heard about that, is somebody that much money can't fail, because you push that into anything and it's going to hockey stick up like that. Then what if you just sell it? You could do this every day of your life and make billions upon billions and then trillions upon trillions. And by the way, he's worth like $300 million.
Yeah, I think it's Forbes that's saying now he's the richest guy out there. I mean, think about the money he made overnight on that whole thing.
Yeah.
He put in something like $2.6 billion and reaped 30% immediately on his investment. If he would have sold it.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is we talked about this last week about stock and the new tax plan that they're trying to roll out on the super rich is that he makes that kind of money but doesn't actually cash in on the stock, and he's got to pay tax as if he did cash in on it.
Right.
That's actually mind-blowing to think about how that would change the game going forward. And would a billionaire actually do something like that if the tax plan is different like that? That kind of changes the whole landscape.
They have as big of a lobbyist presence in Washington, the super rich. They have as big of a lobbyist presence as like anybody else out there, which is why they have all the tax loopholes and why they don't pay taxes, which is why
that's right.
Everybody in power loves the IRS because of the manipulation that goes on. And the IRS is so big that they don't ever want to go away, which is why nobody wants to talk about the fair or free tax system, which obviously we always do. The second thing I wanted to talk about, Merle, is this so-called failed experiment with that truth platform of Trump's that, from what I understand, has launched. It had a couple failed launches a couple of times thus far. Why hasn't he simply jumped on Parler or something like all the other alternatives?
I'm not really sure. I don't have any inside information on that whole thing. Interesting. He really right away, once he got out of the presidency, said that he was going to start his own platform. So it could be just that.
I think he's hurt his brand a lot. I think he continues to hurt his brand a lot. I mean, it started towards the end of the presidency. But I think, and two of the highest up execs just quit his platform as well before he even officially got off the ground. So, I think he continues to shoot himself in the foot. But
we'll have to see on that whole thing. I think that for the people that already loved him, they're not going anywhere. And there's a lot of those people. And I think the people that already hated him are never going to love him or even like him.
Most of the country's somewhere in the middle, and those people will change sides left and right. And I got to tell you, in my eyes, he's really sullied himself.
I don't see it the same way. I see the independents are basically like that, but I don't know. I mean, the way I see Republicans and Democrats these days, it's pretty tough to get a Democrat to become a Republican or vice versa.
That's exactly my point. You guys,
I think it's the independents that are in the middle.
Independents that matter.
They're the ones that make up the whole game. And if you're campaigning, you should be campaigning directly at those people, because that's where you win or lose on these things.
Right. By the way, I wanted to just mention on the heels of that I was looking at my analytics, and that always, and I'm talking about on edwardscom.net, I always push out, I use Buffer to schedule my posts out for a month at a time, and my case studies and some of my articles and stuff like that. And by far, 56-1, my traffic comes from Twitter, which I never even participate on other than pushing the stuff out.
Really?
Yeah, versus 1 to Facebook, and none from LinkedIn. I mean, that was last week, but it's just kind of exemplary of what's going on there. Facebook, first of all, is like completely pay to play now. They, you know, and I look at the analytics. This one's got seen by 3 people out of the 300 that are, you know, I should be getting in front of and stuff like that. Whereas Twitter, this is really my point. Twitter's still like the Wild West out there. You push it out there, and it, you know, people like it. It goes to the next person, and so on and so on.
Yeah, you know, it is kind of interesting how this all works. We're gonna see some things here in the near future. I think what we're dealing with here is a test on really how is this free speech going to work here going forward. And I think Elon Musk is in the middle of this whole thing. But you and I have talked about how this attack on free speech has really hurt the news media, really stolen their credibility. CNN especially has hurt themselves. But I got to tell you, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit, that really there are no trusted news sources anymore. I mean, if you're a Fox guy or you're a CNN person, you can't trust those people. No. You just can't. They all have an agenda. They're hiding stuff from us. But this report came out this week with. There was a poll here that came out. Let's see, Economist, YouGov poll asking who the most trusted news outlet is, and overwhelmingly, one organization came up on top. Take a guess who it was. I couldn't
even possibly BBS. BBC. I'm sorry.
The BBC was very high, but did not win. But that's a great guess. Any others?
No.
Okay, it's the Weather Channel.
Now that's funny, because look how you can be wrong 75% of the time.
That's exactly right. It's gonna rain tomorrow. It's sunny all day. Well, we trust you more than we trust CNN or Fox News.
Now listen to this. I bet you don't know this. Did you know that CNN just launched their streaming platform called CNN Plus?
No, I did. I had not heard that.
Really? Oh God, Crystal and Sagar talk about this all the time, and they have been for weeks leading up to its launch. And they're like, "This is going to be the biggest failure ever." So, who owns CNN? I forget.
Well, it was Ted, billionaire
it's
Ted.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know who it is now.
Warner? Is it Warner?
Let me see if it's on this.
Somebody with so much money, it's unbelievable. And CNN makes.
Oh, it's AT&T.
Yeah. Okay. And CNN.
Time Warner owns them, and AT&T owns CNN.
Okay. So anyways, AT&T put $500 million behind the marketing for the launch of CNN Plus. And so they need, oh God, I don't remember the exact numbers, something staggering, like at least 10 million subscribers to make it a viable, over a year. But in their first week, and it's been this week, they had 18,000 subscribers. And now that doesn't mean they're real subscribers. They had 18,000 downloads of the app. And you know, a lot of people will download that and be like, "Oh, this costs money? Nah, delete."
That's how I do it.
They probably had maybe 10,000. That's an epic fail for where they're going. Epic fail.
It really is. And I mean, I just go back to that graphic that I showed earlier, which is this one, and who owns who. And that's what I looked at right away. Is that there it is, CNN. But look how powerful. Just put these two together, AT&T and Disney, and they think the same way from the top corporate. These are who are influencing our young people, not just us, but especially our young people today. And if you watch CNN or Fox, you'll see both of them have an agenda. And here's another thing too, is how interesting is that you've got ABC, but they also own Fox, and you have very, very different opinions that are happening on here. One's very right leaning, one's very left leaning, and you think, oh well, I'm not going to listen to ABC, or I'm not going to listen to CNN. But you know, they own the same people own everyone, so it's almost like they're playing you, right? You think you're I'm going to listen to these guys and not these guys, but it's the same organization with the same agenda, which I'm going back to this again. these guys are pitting us against each other.
They're pieces of the puzzle. It's not like Fox is a full, all-encompassed media network. It's a piece of the puzzle.
Right. It
and
just
ABC
goes back to
is part of it. So is CNN.
So then here's the other thing. If you take a look at the owners of AT&T, Walt Disney, Comcast, Viacom, and you look at where the funding is actually coming from, it's coming from these hedge funds like Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, and those are the uber rich that are really in control of those, the Rockefellers,
in the background,
the DuPonts, those are the people that are running all of these organizations.
This is kind of really, like
when you boil it down.
If you look across the top at AT&T, Walt Disney, Comcast, Viacom, that's kind of like seeing Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, blah, blah, blah. But truly underneath of it are those companies. The deep state is what I'm trying to say. When you're talking about Vanguard and all the other ones, that's the real deep state situation.
Those are those are
like the generals,
elites that basically own, and they're the ones that are controlling everything. They're trying to, and really to the point of they're trying to hijack our brains. And that's what I was trying to get to earlier, Barry, is that this force of trying to divide us. And I believe that the homosexual agenda isn't a part of equal rights. They don't care about equal rights. It's packaged as equal rights, but it's actually causing a division between us, a disunity between us. And when there's disunity between us, we're much more easily ruled over. They figured that out. And so the last thing they want is for us to embrace our differences and find our common ground and unite against a force that's trying to disunify us. And I see that this graphic to me is a huge eye opener.
Yeah, no, I totally got you with that. Okay, what do you got there, man? What do you want
I got all kinds of stuff here. I wanted to say that we've got Easter coming up here next week. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but
didn't think about it.
Big holiday for Christians around the world. I love watching this time of year because it's one of my favorites, because all the cool Jesus movies come on, and I'm a big fan of those kinds of shows. But for a long period of time, there were no movies or shows that came out of Hollywood. These are much older movies. But recently, there have been some really good shows that came on, and I came across one that I wanted to talk about here, and it's called The Chosen. And this is a really unique, I feel like I discovered it, but I didn't. This is a very unique show, Barry, because it's a series, and there's 2 seasons that they have right now. I think I'm on episode 7 of this season. You can get it on Peacock. I think also on HBO Max. I think
is it new?
Maybe it's not. This came out in 2019. I'm sorry. Original release was December 24th, 2017. Let me just give you a little overview of this. It's about the life of Jesus, the gospel. It encapsulates the 4 gospels. So the lifetime of Jesus from different perspectives of people that met him. And the interesting part about this is, and they announced this right at the beginning, there's some verbiage that comes on right before you watch it that says that it's going to follow the gospel story exactly as the Bible portrays it, but they're going to take artistic privilege and add to the story to not change the story, but to enhance the story around what's in the Bible. Of course, my red flag came up. Skeptic. I hate when they change Hollywood. So I'm like, is this going to be those shows? It's not. They've done such a great job of developing each of the characters and maintaining the truth of what's inside of the gospel, causing it to be very real, causing you to be able to really relate to the different characters, just like it was happening today. Each one of these episodes were made for binge watching. Like if you watch this, when it gets to the end of the first episode, the way that they leave it, you can't wait to see the next episode. They've really done a good job of this. And here's an interesting thing about this that I didn't know until I started doing the research on this, is that this was financed through crowdfunding. And so the way that they put it, and they've had immense success with this type of thing. I'm trying to find the
so instead of
verbiage.
advertising.
Yeah. So the way it works is there's apparently a law that was passed that allows this to be legal. But the way it works is that investors can invest in this, and the millions of people have invested in this, or maybe it's thousands, have invested in this. So the average investment is like $65, and they share in the profits of this whole thing, and it has exploded through the roof. I wish that I could easily pull it, because I saw this on my phone, to pull up the information on this, but they've literally had this amazing success, totally financed the first season and the second season, and they're looking at a third season on this as well. Just a whole new way. It's the most successful movie done like this that's been through crowdfunding. Apparently, Mystery Theater 3000 was the biggest one before this. This one has blown away that one. It's amazing. But I would just say this: if you're looking for something to watch during this holiday season, you can pull this up on the apps. Peacock is one of them, and just start watching it. It's a fresh and unique way to see the life of Jesus, especially during this time of the year. It's really fun. I've cried several times for joy watching this, and if you're into that, that's a good suggestion.
That's a good share. That makes me think of a conversation Jordan Peterson had, I believe it was with Sam Harris, who's an atheist and equally intelligent. So interesting to listen to those two talk. And they were talking about, was this part of a free speech thing? But it was like, what is more real? A parable, or like a Disney, he did at one point use a Disney movie like Pinocchio. Now, Pinocchio is a story about a little wooden boy, and the whole thing is, can he be real and all that? But what Peterson said at first was a mind bender. He said, so what's going to be more real? If you follow a person around through their mundane day, all day, document it, video, whatever, there you go. Or if you follow something like this, maybe what I'm ultimately trying to get at is a story out of the Bible, which is arguably not true, but which is more true. That's what it was. It was about truth, which is more true, because you learn nothing, gain nothing, and enrich nothing by watching this person go through their mundane day. And yet in this parable, you may have gotten the essence of many, many different lessons that could teach you how to get through very challenging aspects of life. So which contains more truth? I thought that was a very interesting concept.
I wasn't sure I was actually following that.
It took me a while too. Let me try again, because I stumbled a bit. If you, okay, the one side of it is typical truth and reality. Follow somebody through their boring average every day of their life.
Right.
Okay. You can't argue that what happened. Yet then read a classic story, maybe of Cain and Abel out of the Bible. And you can argue all day long whether that was truth and really happened or not. But he says, but isn't it more true when you can glean all of the different truths out of it that can help you guide people, millions of people through life?
I understand now what you're saying. Yeah. And I think, there are facts but there's a higher
It's about truth.
level, which is truth.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
I see exactly what you're saying on that whole thing. That makes sense.
And that's when people want to
That is an
argue
interesting concept
about how fictitious the whole Bible is. This is what he's saying. Well, how fictitious is it? Or how much more truth is there than you really think there is?
Right. And I'll just to state for the record, I don't believe that there's anything that's not true in the Bible.
Yeah.
But I totally understand exactly what you're saying here. Hey, I want to go back to this movie because I found exactly what I was looking for. This guy made this whole thing based on a short film that he made called The Shepherd for his church, Harvest Bible Chapel in Elgin, Illinois. Okay, very small town. I've been there before. He filmed it with a friend of his. The film first got attention from a faith-based filtering service, and they said, hey, you should maybe put this film on Facebook and see what happens. Well, the thing was viewed over 15 million times on Facebook. So that gave some people some ideas, and this provisioning, this thing called Job Acts 2016 allows companies to use equity crowdfunding to offer a share of ownership. So the way this worked was at the end of the first fundraising round in January 2019, the project had raised over $10.2 million from 16,000 investors. This was amazing, and each investor received an equity. The majority shareholders will receive shares of the profit. So this is amazing. But since funding the first season by selling the equity, the show has realized traditional crowdfunding for subsequent seasons. Season 2 had reached over 6 million from 300,000 contributors, and the average is $65, like I said. Let's see, producers estimate that the first 16 episodes have been viewed 312 million times as of November 2021. Wow. So what an interesting thing that's happening. Hollywood seemed to have made a decision that these types of movies don't have really the audience to take a look at this.
Right.
This guy proved it. That's absolutely false. And there's a huge audience for this. Pretty cool stuff. I'd never heard of anything like that before.
No, I think that's very interesting.
And extremely well done. Extremely well done. Cool stuff.
I'd like to take a look at it. I guess I'd have to find that Peacock app that I hear about from time to time.
Yeah, it's a free app. So I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a free one, but might not be.
Here's an important one.
I got another one too. Go ahead.
Okay. Biden announces hypersonic missile deal with the UK and Australia.
Oh, I read about that.
China in the arms race after U.S. tested rocket that flew 5 times the speed of sound and reached 65,000 feet. Details emerged after the Pentagon said they tested this hypersonic missile. They pose a new threat as they can evade existing air defense systems, because literally a week ago I was saying that this is terrifying. It's no longer mutual assured destruction. It's just our assured destruction.
Yeah, right.
China has conducted hundreds of tests, and defense officials have warned that the U.S. is lagging way behind the competitors. Now, I could see this being rather false too, because I would really want the U.S. to put this story out there right now, even if it's not true. Because I want Putin to at least have a shadow of a doubt in his mind and start thinking, oh, mutual assured destruction is a possibility.
Yeah.
Even though his is still supposed to be the cream of the crop, which how the hell did Russia surpass us in this arms race like that? I mean, so in such an important way. That's horrifying.
Well,
our military industrial complex is wasting all of our money in the Afghan war, giving all of our money to warlords and everything like that over there, and not to mention our personal contractors and getting kickbacks. It's disgusting.
It's really an interesting quagmire that we find ourselves in right now, because, as you said here, Russia has used the hypersonic missile to attack Ukraine already, and we've been talking about this hypersonic missile several times on the show. That really, up until just this week. I didn't know that we even had the technology for a missile. So I thought we were way behind in this whole thing and we were trying to catch up. But apparently, according to the news, that's not true. But I'm with you. The timing of this seems interesting, especially it's the UK, US, and Australia on the deal. And you take a look at what's happening there in that South China Sea, where Australia borders it. We've got Taiwan over in that area as well. You've got in between those countries, China has built these man-made islands and fortified those. They've got a hypersonic missile as well. Interesting. I believe that's where Russia got it from, by the way, Barry. And I see the ties between what's happening between Russia and Ukraine and what's happening with China and Taiwan. And here I know that our military is aware of this, and that's why this is happening at this time. You saw at the end of last year where the US and the UK made a deal with Australia for the nuclear submarine as well. I believe this is all in preparation for what's about to happen between Taiwan and China. And these are the things that we talked about early on when Russia attacked Ukraine, or this latest attack on Ukraine, because Russia's been in Ukraine for the last 8 years. This isn't new. But this is all leading to a potential World War III type of a scenario here. And it seems to me that we're desperately trying to catch up. And these hypersonic missiles, as you said, Barry, are an existential threat if we can't combat what's happening. Because if you really look at the war game scenarios on this, the ability to wipe out our over the horizon abilities with our naval capabilities can be eliminated within 3 minutes with these hypersonic missiles. So this is serious business that's going on. And I really feel like going back to that picture of the different media outlets, they feel like they've done a terrible job of keeping us informed on this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at this point now we have to rely on people like Elon Musk to bail out our military now.
That's scary. That's scary because the way that I see it is that makes Elon Musk a more
authoritarian.
Yeah, exactly. Like if Elon Musk is a bad guy and absolute power corrupts, absolutely, we're all in big trouble.
Well, I was going to say we're equally reliant on Bill Gates in many ways behind the scenes.
That's terrifying to me.
That is,
especially as I've been doing research on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and what they've been involved in. This is just not a good thing. And I have being a meat lover too, I've got this problem here with what Gates is doing right now, but but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much. You're right, Barry.
Yeah. That's all I got on that. I find that interesting in a very scary way.
I absolutely do as well. We've got a lot of crazy stuff going on. I wanted to go back to my movie thing again one more time, Barry, because I also old movie, never watched it before, thought that I knew pretty much what the movie was about. I was pretty close, but it's The Matrix. Never watched it before.
Really? And you gotta be kidding me.
I've seen it. I've seen just certain parts of it and just assumed that I know this movie. I get it. The blue pill, the red pill.
Yeah.
Take the red pill. You can never go back, all that stuff. But I saw that movie. I watched it the other night and thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched the first one, thoroughly enjoyed it. I see so many parallels in that movie to my Christian faith. And what The Matrix actually is. And I think my favorite part of the movie was towards the end when Keanu Reeves, he's these alien people that were so much more powerful than any human and there's no way you could defeat these people. When he finally was able to see them for who they were, that they were just really computer programming and they weren't really real. Suddenly that gave him the strength to overcome those people. I see such a metaphor in life for all of the challenges that we have in front of us, that we're actually bigger and greater than all of those problems. We have the all-knowing one on the inside of us, and he that is within me is greater than he that is in the world. And so, but in order to harness that actual energy, that ability to overcome these things, it takes faith. You have to actually believe it before you can actually harness that. And so the movie was actually, that was on full display. And I remember when he started to believe, that's when Morpheus says he's starting to believe, and that's when he suddenly had these superhuman strengths. It's such a metaphor for life and our challenges and what we have to overcome. What a great movie that is. I see that sort of like your Bruce Willis movie, the Christmas movie, Yippee-ki-yay. Die Hard. Yeah. I see this as a great Easter movie actually now.
That's interesting.
The Matrix.
Because I always, the Matrix put to words what I didn't know how to verbalize. I've said to you many times is, I remember my mom taking me to the YMCA, and I'd just be watching all these people swimming around the pool. It's all crowded on Wednesday night. And I just want to say, stop. I know what's going on here. This is all a charade. All right, pull the curtain back. Where's the guy behind them? I've always felt that life has been like that. And then as like stuff like that, as we learn about technology, and then you see stuff like the Matrix, it's like, oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's really a programmer. I really have a programmer. And so whether you call it God or your programmer, it's really virtually the same thing, except that when you call it a programmer, if that's what you see, there's a degree of contempt that I have for that programmer when I see the things, obvious, it's like, I see what you're doing here. And this is like, Merle, I could ride my bike down in the Heights, down the two-way street, oncoming traffic, and I'm going this way, and in the morning to the gym, and there'll be one car parked along the street that, creates that jackpot situation on the rare occasion that the car comes at you from the other side. Now, what are the chances of that car coming right on the rare instance that car is parked in the street? Well, it seems like that happens at about 90% of the time, which is how I would program a video game. Like you don't just have the random car come when it doesn't create any kind of a factor. No, you try to you want to do that randomly now and then, but you want to make sure that you have that car coming where it creates something of a jackpot situation for you to deal with. And I see that in my life all the time. So I'm like, man, programmer, because I played video games my whole life growing up, and I recognize algorithms like that. And I see these algorithms in my life. And so the difference between if you see life as your God or your programmer is, you can have contempt for that programmer, but if you see it as God who's trying actually to help guide you, then you can have more faith. Faith is more easily harnessed and believable. Whereas working with this programmer is more like, man, I'm not kissing your ass. Just stop doing this.
Well, it's interesting what you're talking about too, Barry, because I remember a time in my life where it felt like that to me, exactly what you're talking about. And it felt like that as a result, the program was stacked against me, and these things were happening, and I just couldn't win. And like the algorithm was stacked so that I couldn't win. And I was seeing it as not like I think this is before I was a Christian, and these forces seem to be happening that would lead me to failure. And when I really now I look at things very differently, and I see a loving God, a God who sacrificed his own life to save me, how much more would he give me if he's already given me his life, his flesh, his blood to because of his love for me, and that he's for me, that he wants all things to work together for good for me, that he's got a plan to prosper me and not to harm me. And once I saw it that way, everything started to change. It wasn't just my perception of things changing. Things started to automatically work out rather than automatically crash and burn. And I can relate that back to the Matrix, because that's how it was working with him, is when he believed that he was the one, and that he had that what was inside of him was greater than what was inside of the Matrix. He was able to overcome those forces, but only in that situation. And it's a very interesting concept that we deal with in what we call reality.
It is an interesting concept, because if you can also take some of the more Eastern philosophies that will talk about, you're creating your reality through the energy that you're vibrating that. And so if I'm concentrating on this programmer who's messing with me, and I see this all the time, be like, okay, you still using the bike riding and driving a car analogy. All right, I'm not sure where I'm at, but I want to get over and take a left over here. And now all of a sudden, this hasn't happened all day, but now there's this big truck that's coming very slowly, blocking that, while there's while pedestrians crossing the street all at one time. Now, on the other hand, if I harness, this is more Matrix-like, if I harness more of an Eastern philosophy, which is like, I understand that I'm vibrating at a low level here by the way I'm thinking, and I'm creating these situations, but with my negativity, and I breathe and I meditate, I want to feel good. And you get yourself vibrating at a higher mentality, at a higher vibration, things will be like parting the clouds. And I believe this to be true as well. That's Matrix-like. That's the God harnessing the power of faith kind of thing as well. I think those things, I think they all they have their own truth. It's just different ways of seeing them, and it's a slippery slope.
Did you ever see that movie, The Truman Show?
Yeah. I told you that that's how I felt as a kid. That's exactly what I meant.
So like that.
Yeah, I've always felt like that. Like everything's a facade here. Like my life is a walking reality show. And when I die, that's when it's, they just clap. Oh, that was good. You were
good. So growing up, that as a young boy, that show Candid Camera really screwed me up, Barry. It's the same kind of thing. Things would happen, and I would, am I on Candid Camera right now? I mean, I constantly was thinking, it's the same concept. I was constantly thinking that kind of thing was, it's really interesting. I think this is something that we probably don't really talk about. Like, people don't really talk about this, but I bet you a lot of people feel the exact same way. And have had a similar experience with their faith regarding this as well.
Right. What was I going to say about that? I don't remember. Well, anyways, there's some important thoughts that can be explored more, because I do think the important thing is whether you achieve this coming through a place of faith or achieve it coming through a realization that your vibrational, where you stand vibrationally, creates your environment. The important thing, I like how
you say that. The vibration thing. That's an interesting, because I think about, I dabble with guitar, and you think about different frequencies, and how certain frequencies harmonize together. And when they harmonize together, there's a ring to it that's not unmistakable. But if suddenly you were to play a chord that didn't harmonize with that, or you played a note that didn't harmonize with it, it would stick out like a ugly blemish, do you remember, but there's a metaphor to life on that whole thing, just like you're saying.
Do you remember the guy that wrote and sung that song All by Myself?
Yes.
Can't think of his name.
I can't remember his name either.
But he was a very, very talented and accomplished musician. And my point to that is that he actually was sued by, somebody that wrote the classic. It was kind of based on the chord structure was based on, because it's known that, I mean, throughout hundreds of years of music, that certain chords elicit a certain emotional response. And that song is based upon that chord structure that it's kind of creates that emotion that he was looking for.
It's Eric Carmen is the person's name. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go back and listen to that song, there's no way for that to not move you. And it has to do with the chords, the chord progression.
You're right about that, because it's playing in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of goes off into a sad, like minor chord. That's
It was almost stolen from a classical song that I can't think of.
How is it that you could even write any songs anymore that aren't going to sound something like another song out there? I mean, with all the songs that have been written and copyrighted, it seems like it's a trap.
It does. It seems like if somebody is to try to sue you for copyright infringement, plagiarism, it's like, well, something out there must sound similar. Somewhere, if you look hard enough.
You know, it's funny, Barry.
I
started to dabble with writing my own songs and everything. And I wrote this worship song that I thought was the bomb. and I played it for my family and everything, because I was really shy to play at one time, and still am kind of. But I played it for my mom, for my brother. They were like, wow, that's really good. And then one day,
oh man, I want to hear this story, and you just went away.
I was in church to get my song, but it wasn't.
Dude, you got to back
my
up.
Song. I had actually. Okay, am I? Can you hear me now?
Okay, so the last I caught was that you were playing it for your mom.
Me now?
Oh my god, that's a bad connection.
Hey there.
Yeah, I hear that. But you were playing it for your mom and brother, and they're like, "That's a really good song." And then what?
Yeah. Then I went to church and I heard the church band play the same song.
Okay, so the church band played the same song. Does that mean that you just had
sorry about the connection here.
We're gonna have to go, dude. This is awful.
I didn't. Yeah, sorry about that, but I did not make up the song. I heard it at church.
Okay,
and thought that I made up the song.
I got you. And there's a term for that people can legitimately that happens.
Plagiarism.
I don't know, but we got to wrap up. This is awful. All right. Hey, hope you have a great weekend, dude. You've been frozen up for a long time, but talk soon. Love you, bro. See ya.